Welcome to the Business of Drinks, where we go behind the bottle, interviewing beverage innovators and icons about how they built their businesses.
We take a data-driven approach, analyzing the brands, products, and categories that get customers and consumers excited.
And we cover several drinks categories, from wine, beer, and spirits to non-alcoholic drinks, as well as THC, adaptogen, and functional beverages.
So whether you're working in drinks or just interested in the stories behind your favorite brands, join us each week as we explore how companies are unlocking growth at every stage in the game.
Thanks for joining us, and let's dive in. Hello, BOD crew, and hi, Scott. So what's on tap today?
Hey, Erica. Today we're talking non-alcoholic cocktails. This is a sector that continues to surprise with its unrelenting growth. Now, before the wine people and spirit folks say, this is an episode I can skip, I urge you all to listen on because there's so much to learn here, right? This episode, I really believe that this is for everyone. Any founder who seeks inspiration, any drinks professional who wants to know what's cutting edge, and anyone who wants a peek behind the scenes of Shark Tank.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to talk about non-alc for a minute. So non-alc options, as we know, are really exploding in popularity. I was just on a panel last week for Distill Ventures talking about non-alc drinks trends. And Brandy Rand, who was with the IWSR for a long time, and now she runs her own consultancy, she had a really fascinating data point that non-alc drinkers are recruiting from multiple categories, right? So they're pulling share from alcoholic drinks, and they're also pulling share from soda. And that is what's driving this rapid growth for the segment. So the IWSR data that she cited was that 29% of non-alc drinkers are replacing alcoholic beverages and 44% switched from soft drinks. And that gives a sense about why we're seeing so much growth and innovation in this segment. It just has massive audience potential, both for those zebra stripers who are doing like one alc, one non-alc, one alc again. And then also for soda drinkers who are looking for more interesting and dynamic drinks options. So our guest today makes a product that is a groundbreaker in this category. It's Megan Klein, the founder of Little Saints. And this is a brand that's redefining what it means to enjoy a cocktail without alcohol. It's focused on adaptogens and functional ingredients.
Yeah, Megan has a fascinating journey. She transitioned from corporate and being an environmental lawyer to a successful entrepreneur in the food and now the beverage space. Little Saints has become a standout brand, generating an impressive $9 million in sales annually, which is, incredible given that it only launched 3 years ago. Of course, this figure doesn't reveal all the trials and tribulations that occurred during the building of the brand.
Oh, yeah. And we are going to get into many of those. So, to tee it up, Megan just had a pretty epic appearance on Shark Tank in October, I believe. And she shared a lot of the company's metrics in her pitch that other founders are going to find interesting and useful. So, for example, the production of Little Saint's best-selling product, which is it's St. Embers, like a mezcal type analog. The cost is $7 to produce, and then after adding shipping and fulfillment, it comes to $23. Now, each bottle sells for $49.99, so that's a solid 54% profit margin. She also talks about in the episode that she invested $1 million of her own savings and raised another $2.2 million by the time of the recording over the summer, and she's raised more since then. And she talks about the sales and losses over the past couple of years, which I think people will also find really interesting. So in 2022, Little Saints made $500,000 in sales, but suffered a $1.3 million loss. In 2023, As she talks about in our interview, Little Saints did 1.6 million in sales and lost a little less than 1.1 million. And then this year, they're tracking to do the 9 million in sales you mentioned with a loss of less than 1 million. So these numbers illustrate really the rough waters of testing and learning and iterating on the path to break even. And then, we talk so much in this episode about what worked, but importantly, what also didn't work. So I think listeners should think of this conversation as something of a post Shark Tank deep dive. And I have to say, Megan was incredibly generous with her insights. She's frank and transparent about the struggles she faced. And I have to say, I learned so much in this episode, and much of it was pretty unexpected.
And let's not forget the innovative approach and risk that comes with it that Megan has taken. Her drinks are functional. They contain ingredients like reishi and lion's mane mushrooms and damiana. Little Saints takes this middle path between alc and non-alc. It's a brand that emphasizes wellness, but not at the expense of user experience, which is why I think it's really resonated with consumers.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's not just about refraining from alcohol, I'd say. It's about enhancing the experience with thoughtful ingredients that promote well-being and maybe even take the edge off in a similar way to alcohol, as she discusses. So we're going to touch on everything from the evolution of Little Saints product offerings to how she pivoted her marketing strategy to reach a wider audience.
Indeed, we really cover it all. First, right, there's the story behind the brand, and it's a compelling narrative. I mean, she mentions she sold her house to keep Little Saints afloat in its early days. Second, there's the story of the brand, functional, fun, and approachable. And then finally, there's the business side of things. She covers what one might expect to be a reasonable return on ad spend, to fundraising without venture capital, to consumer demographics.
If I do say so myself, it's a pretty great episode. So settle in with your favorite drink and let's hop into this conversation with Megan Klein of Little Saints. And now, a word from our sponsor. Is your drinks brand looking to start or expand import and distribution?
Whether you're seeking to enter new markets or you're unhappy with a current distributor and desiring a better fit, you should know about Swig Partners.
Founded by industry experts Eric Siegelbaum and Amy Troutmiller, Swig takes the guesswork and the legwork out of distribution strategy. Swig helps brands and distributors find the right fit for long-term relationships and sales success.
US-based importers and distributors should reach out too. With Swig, they can explore new products for free. And brands, you can get $100 off by mentioning Business of Drinks. Find out more at swigpartners.com/business of drinks. That's swigpartners.com/business of drinks.
Megan, thanks so much for coming on the Business of Drinks.
Thanks for having me, Erica.
Absolutely. Well, let's hop right into it. So, I want to get a sense. Tell me a little bit about your background before launching Little Saints.
My background is all over the place, so I will do it chronologically. The thread through all of it is that I've always been, I love trees, and my goal is to inspire a love of nature. And so I started out being a lawyer. I was a corporate lawyer, and then I was an environmental lawyer for earth justice. I fought fracking and factory farms. And I love the work Earth Justice does, but it was pretty clear that nonprofit wasn't for me. I'm a capitalist, and I know that personally I change my own behavior based on, some sort of consumer movement, for better or for worse. And so I thought, okay, I can really make more of an impact in something that is more resonant with me. So then I didn't have any business background. I was a lawyer for, 10 years. I went to law school. And so I wanted to get into vertical farming. I read this book by you're in New York. I read a book by a Columbia professor called the Vertical Farming. And anyways, long story short, I stalked them. I stalked this vertical farm in Chicago called Farmed Here until they hired me for equity only in 2013. And then I ended up leading that indoor farm for 3 years. And then we pivoted and we turned that into a plant-based salad dressing, dip, and juice company called Field and Farmer. It was a great plant-based brand that was on shelf. It was in Whole Foods nationally. It just shut down like earlier this year, but it's a great brand. And then in early 2020, I left Field and Farmer. I had co-founders who are lovely people, and I always really wanted to start something on my own. I'm 45 now. I was 41 or 42 then, and I had a savings. I thought I would get married and have kids. And then when I didn't, I was like, well, what a blessing. Like I have this like huge nest egg that I can put into something I really believe in. And what I was thinking a lot about at that time, and it just so happened, I left Field and Farmer the week before COVID. And so I was thinking a lot about my own wellness practices. Like I've been, I was an entrepreneur in the food and beverage space, and it was really clean label for a long time. And so had all these healthy practices during the day. Like for a long time, I meditate, I do yoga when I wake up in the morning and eat really healthy. And then at night, I was always having a couple cocktails. And, like just socially, I lived in New York City for a long time. I was living in Chicago at the time. And it was just, like a 5-night a week, just social thing. And then when COVID hit, I was then I just realized like how much like alcohol consumption was really just affecting my health and my mood and like my ability to concentrate and focus. And so that's when, I decided to start Little Saints.
And so tell me about the original concept. Like, is what we see on shelves today, is that the concept that, that came to fruition, or did you have another idea first?
A little bit. So first, my goal is to be a significant catalyst for evolving the future of imbibing away from just alcohol and water into like sort of a rainbow of fuels behind the back bar. And so originally my concept for Little Saints was we were going to do microdose THC edibles with functional mushrooms in them, and then also CBD mocktails with functional mushrooms in them. So it has evolved over time, but it was always the concept of having like a clean label, functional mushroom based imbibing kind of solution. So I started with the THC edibles and the CBD mocktails. And then over time, the THC edibles were like a short-lived great way to light cash on fire. So I moved to Detroit. I moved to Detroit alone during the pandemic, which was wild. I did that because I had some partners who had a THC processing license. And so I could launch a brand with them. And frankly, I was much more passionate about the drinks, but at that time I felt like I really wanted to bring like a solution. And I still was sort of thinking in my own personal life that like I wanted something to get me into like an intoxicated and altered state, like a microdose THC edible would be. I just didn't want it to be alcohol. And then I had the gummies out on the market for like maybe 2 months. I mean, it was like, the pricing was horrible. They were expensive. They were premium priced, low dose gummies, and everyone wanted low priced, high dose gummies. So it was just like not a good product market fit. And I've been doing this for a long time. So I was able to just say goodbye to that very quickly. Yeah. And then what I had been doing to market it was I had a little mint green vending trailer. I named her Baby Mint, and I took her to events around Detroit and Michigan. I even took her to Chicago, and I would serve Little Saints. We called them plant magic mocktails at the time. Now we call them non-alcoholic cocktails, but they were very, very similar to what they are today. But just today's version does not have CBD in them. So they always had the reishi mushroom, they had CBD, and then they have the aromatic terpenes in them. They've always been sugar-free, and they've always been, inspired by classic cocktail flavors. So the Paloma, which is our best-selling kind of cult favorite now, that flavor has been around since that first summer that I was selling out of the trailer.
Yeah. Wow. So you launched the brand in 2021. Tell me, like, that first year of the actual, the plant-based mocktails that have now become like the cocktails, the NA cocktails. Tell me about that first year. It sounds like you were out, with this trailer. Like, how did that first year evolve?
It was wild because the gummies were in there. I was kind of I really wanted to test everything out. We had all been like just alone during COVID. So I wanted to test out and see if my experience with alcohol, just really wanting an alternative. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I quit about 2 years ago, but like for the first year and a couple months of Little Saints, I did drink alcohol, and I really made it for people like that I was like back then, which was just like, I wanted to drink less. I wanted to zebra stripe it. I don't know if you know that term.
Yeah.
I
It's
just
becoming
wanted to,
popular. I mean, I think so many people drink that way these days.
totally. And I didn't like any of the options. And so I wanted to test out like the messaging and just see what people were looking for. And so many people, I was doing a lot of like outdoor events, and so many people would come up to the trailer with a beer in their hand and be like, I just want to drink less. And then it was funny because in the beginning, like I'm really witchy. I love like geeking out on plants, and I would start geeking out on plants and people's eyes would glaze over. And I realized very quickly, I was like, oh, okay, like just be normal. Like what people are looking for is like a very like easy to understand one-to-one swap. So you can have a spicy margarita that's a Little Saints and it has a functional mushroom in it. And they were also really interested in it being sugar-free.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. So let's geek out on plants for a minute. So I'm
Great.
curious to know, you've got the reishi mushrooms. I've seen Damiana. I've seen a couple of the more functional ingredients in there. Can you talk about like the rationale behind the different ingredients and the effects that you're looking to create with that?
Sure. So when I still work with a food scientist with her master's in adaptogens to help formulate the products. And I also have along the way consulted a number of neuroscience advisors. And like Little Saints is not meant to be intoxicating. It is not meant to be a one-to-one, alcohol experience. But what it is meant to do is like, I thought a lot about it. And I did a lot of focus groups and a lot of talking to people of like, why are we reaching for alcohol? It's not necessarily like to get drunk. And in fact, in most cases, people's response, that's not what they wanted. They wanted like a take the edge off feeling, that was one of them. And so that's why we added the reishi mushroom. And so, our neuroscience advisors, I was like, what is going to give you that slight like relaxation of your nervous system? That's like that when you take a sip of a wine and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of like feel like I can like take a deep breath now. The reishi mushroom is really in there for that reason. And to geek out on plants, we use like a really like high precision extracted, really potent reishi mushroom extract and lion's mane extract. Our supplier, we had a dinner party last night and we cook lion's mane. So if you cook a lion's mane up in a pan, it's going to be anywhere from like 0.1% potency to like maybe 5% potency. And that's because the potent part of the mushroom that is like effective for what we're talking about, like a take the edge off kind of nervous system impact, that's the beta glucan. And so that's going to be like a 0.1% to like a 10% beta glucan. And that's what most mushroom supplements are. They're ground up like mushroom fibers, the fruiting bodies and the mycelium, the stems. And that's like, so that's why, some mushrooms are not as potent. And our mushroom extracts are, they're precision extracted with ultrasound. So it's really clean. They like extract the beta glucan with ultrasound. And because of that, we get COAs, like we get documentation every time that it's 70% beta glucan.
Wow.
So long story short, our mushrooms like extracts can be like up to 700 times more potent than just like a traditional like ground up mushroom powder, which is used in many supplements and other drinks. And so that, they're expensive. We put them in there because we not everyone is going to feel it. Like I don't feel Little Saints all the time. I will
Yeah.
feel like one of our cans if I'm super stressed out and I'm like, oh my God, like what is this day? We'll do it in the office. If we're just all kind of like agitated, we'll have one of the cans and it'll be very subtle and we'll be like, oh, okay, I kind of like, I'm feeling better. And then the lion's mane in the spirit, which I'm holding up right now, has a different effect to it. That's much more for the feeling of drinking, like when you're drinking and like you have that one cocktail and you feel really smart and magnetic and you just like feel like you can have that great conversation.
Sure.
That's what we put the lion's mane in there for. So it's really like that magnetic feeling, kind of like your brain's on and you can really relate to someone.
Yeah.
So that's a different effect than the reishi. And we put that in the spirit. We put it in the, so St. Ember was our first spirit. We launched it in May 2023. And that is meant to be like a mezcal tequila alternative. And we thought about lion's mane because I always, when I drank alcohol, I'd be like, oh, cool, tequila and mezcal are uppers. Like this is like something that I am going to drink to kind of like be on and not be sloppy and be really magnetic. And so when we formulated the St. Ember, that's why we put the lion's mane in there, because it would be that, the association with that sort of like magnetic cognitive feeling.
Nice. All right. So and then the Damiana I've seen and a couple of the other ingredients. So just tell me briefly about those.
Oh yeah, thank you. So we just started adding Damiana to our limited edition flavors within the past year. I talked to a doctor of Chinese medicine. I was at this really great retreat with like a bunch of like doctors and neuroscientists. And I was like, if we were going to add one functional ingredient to the mushrooms, because I am really a big fan of using functional ingredients like more sparingly. Like I personally don't like the drinks with a ton of adaptogens in them. I feel a little crazy and I feel like they cancel each other out. And because we've taken such care in sourcing these mushrooms and because they do have an effect, like I don't need to add things to them. However, we were like, okay, if we were going to add something, what would it be? And so we add Damiana. So it's always like mushrooms first. That is like the base, that is the fuel. And then Damiana is kind of like a little kicker. So Damiana is a heart opener. You couldn't say this on the packaging, but like people believe it's an aphrodisiac. And, we've tested it a whole lot. And what it really does is it'll bring like a little bit of like a mild body sensation. So last night at dinner, we had 20 people at the dinner table. And I asked everyone, like, does anyone feel anything? And like about 11 of the 20 people, so not everyone is feeling something, but 11 of the 20 people raised their hands. And some people were like, I feel like mildly a little warmer in my face, or like, I feel like mildly a little warmer in my heart. I felt it. And the person next to me felt it in our arms. It's like very, very subtle and very similar to alcohol, frankly, like you'll feel a little warmed up. And so we've been putting Damiana in there, and honestly, we're playing around with it. Like it's always a positive effect. Like I think we probably still would keep some SKUs with just mushrooms and the limited edition with Damiana. And we just keep talking to our customers and keep seeing what people are resonating with and kind of like be a little more fluid with that.
All right. So now you're 4 years in and you were just on Shark Tank. So let's talk about that experience. Yeah. What motivated you to go on Shark Tank?
It was so fun. It was so funny. There's like so many bugs in my ear. I'm sure you know this. Like when you're an entrepreneur, everyone's like, you should go on Shark Tank. So all you hear is you should go on Shark Tank for like, at least every month for your whole time. And so, they actually, they reached out to me. I was really lucky. Wow. I got an email and I was like, oh my gosh. And so, but that doesn't mean that it was easy. Like you still have to do like a video. You have to do like a huge application. It is like very legit. I never thought it wasn't legit, but it is like you are, going out for an investment pitch and it's very serious. And so once I started applying, I was like, you know what? I do really want to do this. Like, I love Mark Cuban. I would love to make a deal with Mark Cuban. And it felt like a really great way also to see if, these like mushroom cocktails were going to resonate with mainstream, because we are, when I started it, it was very niche, right? It's like non-alcoholic what, and then mushrooms what, and then over the past few years, so many people are drinking mushrooms in their coffee, and like it's much
Sure.
more of like a mainstream, awareness. And so anyway, so I then once I started applying, I was like, oh my God, I really want to get on the show. Like I really, really
Yeah.
want to do this. And so yeah, I filmed over the summer, and I just was like, I still pinch myself that I got to do that. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, it was, a real, I wanted to make a deal. I didn't make a deal. I got 3 offers. I got one from Rashawn Williams, who's the new guest shark. He played for the Falcons and now like does a bunch of like really amazing investments in the VC world. I got one offer from him. I got one offer from Kevin, Mr. Wonderful. And then I got an offer from the 2 of them together. And basically like, listen, they were real business negotiations. Like you have to go in there and you have to memorize like your initial pitch, and then they just start firing investor questions at you. And then like you completely forget like you're getting filmed, and it's just like back and forth. And so I went in there with a valuation that we were already raising at like I filmed over the summer. Over the summer, we were raising an angel round at a $20 million valuation. I came in there and I offered them a 50% discount. I offered them a $10 million valuation. And because, it'd be kind of like, I know that the sharks like bring huge visibility. I wanted to give them a premium for like, what I know that they would bring to the table that I can't bring to the table myself, or that like just any of my other angel investors couldn't, but they were cutting the valuation in half and in 2/3.
Totally.
And it was like,
totally.
And at that point they were basically offering me like 1 times my trailing revenue. And at the time we filmed, we had a profitable quarter. So
Yeah. So it was you were seeking 500,000 for 5% equity. So yes, at a 10 million valuation. So half of the valuation you were already raising at. Right.
Yes. So I wasn't going to cut it in another half or in another 2/3. And so if you saw it, I didn't really budge, because other entrepreneurs have gone on the show and they have gotten, the offers they asked for. And I thought I was making a really good offer, and I was willing to budge in little ways, but not that much. And so it's fun. It's really a wild experience, because you walk off stage and you're like, did I just make a mistake? Like, I don't know, but I'm happy about how it turned out. I think it would have actually made fundraising in the future a lot harder. And, I know what the company's worth. Like, I know like what we've worked for, and it just wasn't like, I'm not going to take a bad deal.
Well, and I saw a news clip of Mark Cuban saying that you were smart not to take the deal. That must have been validating.
He was so awesome. Like on the set, he was like trying to he was like helping, he was like advocating for me to Kevin. It was like the best experience of all times.
That's so cool. All right. So on Shark Tank, you shared some of the metrics of the company, noting that Little Saints has grown significantly since 2022, when it made $500K in sales, but suffered a $1.1 million loss. So I'm curious, what were some of the key expenses that contributed to those losses? And then how did you shift the business away from those loss drivers?
We actually lost more than that in 2022. I think we lost like 1.3 million. It was a disaster. And then in 2023, we did 1.6 million, and we lost about a little less than 1.1 million. And this year we're on track to do 9 million, and we will lose less than 1 million. So we really have made some
closing
great
the gap.
strides. I'm really proud of our team, and we've worked really hard for that. So listen, the first year was a comedy of errors. And the main thing was, from my background at Field and Farmer, like I'm very familiar with wholesale distribution. And so that's what I was going to do with Little Saints. So we got a deal with an alcohol distributor out in California, and I went the traditional route. And like, that was a mistake for 2 reasons. Number one, Little Saints did not have the brand awareness it does now. And so like, it was hard to get people to like buy it. And number 2, which is still a problem today in the markets we're in, is that like, even though consumers want non-alcoholic drinks, there's like, you still have to get through a distributor, and then you still have to get through the bar manager, and you still have to like get on shelf. And often there's not like dedicated shelf space for non-alc. There's not like, the non-alcoholic menu isn't done yet, or if it is, it's mocktails and they don't want to bring in a spirit. And so there were just a lot of barriers to entry. So that, I hired a great salesperson. We put in a lot of money to that. And then also I was going the more traditional marketing route. I had partnered with a pretty expensive PR firm. They're great people, but we were throwing really expensive events all the time, and all this product seeding and $20,000 on gift boxes that don't do anything. And just all those things that in my intuition, I was like, I don't think this is going to work. And it didn't work. So
yeah. I saw you mention to someone in an interview where you said, don't work with agencies. So I was curious to follow up and ask you about that.
Yes. Sorry, agencies listening to this, but I think it's, I would go back to my theme in Shark Tank, which is just feeling confident in your own self-worth. In 2022, I was like, oh my God, I'm not a celebrity. I don't have a celebrity co-founder. I'm trying to build this beverage brand. Maybe I do need these fancy PR people, and I do need to spend all this money. And it was all smoke and mirrors. And then once I thought about, I have a Kellogg MBA, all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, where are people looking for non-alcoholic drinks? It's on their phone. And no one really gives a shit, about some celebrity unboxing. That might give you a little bit of street cred, but it's
totally.
not
What's
giving
the
you
ROAS
ROI.
on that?
It's not making someone actually go buy it. They don't know what the product is, because Little Saints has pretty packaging. They're like, oh, that's pretty, but if it's not on shelf, or if it's not easy to buy, it doesn't do anything. And so in 2023, I have the best CMO ever. Katie, we were friends first, and she's a hustler like I am. And we were like, all right, this is bullshit. This is not the company. And also at that point, I had all my money in there. I had sold my apartment to keep the thing going. I was terrified.
Wow.
My family's money was in there. It's still in there. All of our money's still in there. But I was like, we might go out of business. This would be a catastrophe. And I know that Little Saints is bringing something really good into the world that people need and want, and we're not going to let this die. So what we did was we just totally pivoted, and we became a D2C company, and we started meta advertising, and we had no idea what we were doing in the first place. Katie's really creative. I'm really creative. Katie was doing the ads. We were both kind of doing the ads, and we were just running it us. We kept PR for a little bit longer. It still did nothing. So in July 2023, we fired all agencies, no marketing agency, no PR agency, just Katie and me. And maybe we would hire some content agencies to do some UGC sometimes, but we did some of the UGC ourselves. And we just put all of our efforts into meta advertising, and then things started picking up. Katie came up with a great campaign of drink mushrooms, skip the hangover. Many people have copied it since then, but when we got that out there in the summer of 2023, that's when I remember the 4th of July, 2023, we hadn't done more than, I don't know, maybe $2,000 in sales in a day. And we had this cool drink mushroom, skip the hangover with our friend Nicola, who's a bartender. He looks like a character. He's got a big beard, and he was holding the bottle. And it was, I think it was something you just look twice at. And all of a sudden over the 4th of July, we looked and we had 7,000 of sales, 10,000 of sales. I mean, now we do $60,000 of sales in a day. But at that time, it was, it was kind of revolutionary. And so we doubled down on that. And then this year we started to add back things, but only after we had completely figured out kind of our paid advertising strategy first. So now we've got a really good, we've got a great creative team. We still do things in-house. We'll work with freelancers, but I hate that middleman. I will not, if I have a project manager or an account manager with an agency, immediately, no, we're never doing that.
Wow. Yeah. And so it sounds like you really have, pushed a lot of your sales. I think I saw a figure that 85% of your sales are direct to consumer at this point. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Wow. Because I think one of the challenges that we saw, kind of post 2018 when Facebook, meta advertising became so expensive is just that the ROAS of those, the ad spend was just not working out. But I have been hearing from more and more companies that like it's starting to get better, and like that you can actually find some ways to work on meta that do actually, yield the kind of, 4x, 6x, returns that you're hoping for. Has that been your
Just to be
experience?
clear, we do not have a 4x or 6x. And I think anyone that says that is completely lying, or maybe
Oh,
they have
really?
it in
Yeah.
one ad that they're running for like one day. What we're shooting for
Yeah.
is above a 2.6, which we have been
Okay.
at for the past like 2 months because we have good margins. And so that means that every one of our ads is profitable. We also have a good LTV to CAC ratio. It's like in the mid threes. And I would say, we need to add on additional channels. Like this is a very strategic move on our part because it helps people discover the brand. They oftentimes, if they don't buy, they sign up for our email list. Like we've got a really thoughtful email program. And so then we're kind of getting them into like our thoughts and our like community. And then, just like hoping that they will like buy, like they will like continue to buy over time. But I mean, my inbox is clouded with people being like, do you want a 10x ROI? Anyone that is promising you that is full of shit. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
happen. But
Okay. That is good to know.
No,
Yeah.
don't even listen to them. But listen, we have really great creative. We've been doing this for a while now. We know it works. We are like not afraid to be totally ridiculous. Like I'll squeeze lines made into my mouth. Like we have this amazing guy named like Ray in Miami, who's actually a cop in real time. And he's like doing these hilarious like things about like a spoof on like watching football and like beers making him fat and like making him lose his libido. So he's going to drink Little Saints. So we'll just, we just really, the team is really creative. I do my best to foster an environment where like everyone can like actually bring their ideas to life. And I think that works. I think people can tell that it's not like some weird ad that some agency made up to try to get you to buy something.
Yeah, totally. Well, and you're so close to the product, so it makes sense to just keep it in-house if it's a possibility. So, I hear also you've started much more of a retailer push. So tell me about some of those partnerships.
Yeah, so we launched at Sprouts on July 1st as part of their innovation set, and that's a program where you're on shelf with them for 3 months, and that's how they really like do a great job at fostering like small new local brands. And we crushed it. We were their number one selling non-alc brand in that set for those 3 months, thankfully, and we have that in writing from the Sprouts buyers. And so then they ended up putting us in their permanent set as of November 1st.
Wow. Congratulations.
And then they took another SKU. We're launching our espresso martini in their innovation set in January. And so that was, I have done wholesale before and I know how expensive it is and I know what a pain it can be. And so I really wanted to go slow. I know that we may be losing shelf space to some other brands that are really focusing much more on wholesale, but I didn't want to go in anywhere where we couldn't support the program and we couldn't make sure that we were going to like do well on shelf. So our wholesale strategy, like retail strategy, is very deliberate. We will go like one retailer at a time. We definitely are trying to grow our retail business. Like we have pitches in to all the big ones like Whole Foods and Target and Total Wine. And I hope that we get some of those. Our Shark Tank performance like has been like really helpful for brand awareness for that. And we know we need to build wholesale, but like very intelligently. Like my biggest nightmare would to be like on 2,000 shelves and not have them moving.
Totally. And tell me about the number of SKUs at this point and what the mix looks like.
Sure. So we have 6 can SKUs and now we have 2 bottle SKUs because we just launched St. Juniper on Monday. So we have 4 core SKUs, which are our Paloma, which is our best seller, Ginger Mule, Spicy Margarita, and Negroni Spritz. And when you buy a variety pack, that's the ones that you try. Our limited edition flavors are a spiced old fashioned, which is so good for winter, and an espresso martini. And those are the ones that have the Damiana edition addition in them, in addition to the reishi mushroom. The 4 core SKUs don't have Damiana. And then the Saint Ember was our first spirit, and that has lion's mane. And then the Saint Juniper has the lion's mane and Damiana combo. And the Saint Ember, so they're not cheap. They have really expensive ingredients and they're not easy to make. The Saint Ember is a $49.99 price point on our website, and it's our best-selling product by far. Like 65%
Wow.
of our sales are Saint Ember. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And then for the juniper product, how wide and how far is that being sold right now? I know you said it's just introduced. Is it already on store shelves?
No, not on store shelves. So we don't do that. What allows us to be really quick and nimble is just to launch stuff through our website and see how it does. So what we always do is we launch something organically. So we're just selling it to our email list and through anyone that follows us on social media. And then, if it does well, then we will pitch it to retailers, but we are not, if you're waiting for it to be on shelf, you're adding at least a couple other months before the retailer says yes. And then it gets in, and what if you made a mistake on the label or something? We're still pretty nimble. And so we've launched St. Juniper is not actually, so we also do a lot of online wholesale. A lot of our retailers reach the smaller independents will buy through our website. And we didn't offer the St. Juniper available for wholesale. We'll have it available for wholesale maybe mid-December. So you would be able to buy it online for wholesale for Dry January, through our website. In terms of distribution, that's to be determined.
Yeah. Okay. And so tell me now, I think a lot of our listeners who are founders will be really interesting to hear about your fundraising strategy. So what have been, you've gone through many different stages with the company. Now you're making, significant revenue. Tell me about the different stages of fundraising. Did you focus, clearly you had the nest egg, friends and family. Was it angels and VC from there? Or what strategy worked for you? And what advice do you have for other founders?
Oh gosh. I'll just tell you what I did. I'm happy about where I'm at right now, but it's never easy. So obviously I wouldn't have been able to do what I did unless I had significant savings. I had an apartment to sell, and I had family that also put some savings into it. So that, I just want to say that that's a huge, luxury that many people don't have. But I spent that really unwisely. And so we'll just talk about when in 2022. No, I sold my apartment in 2023. So 2023 was the first time I raised outside capital. And I went to friends and family. I had been talking to VCs, and I was just listen, I had raised $20 million with my ex-business partners for my old company, for the farm and for everything. And so I'm familiar with the fundraising process and talking to VCs, and I don't really love it. I find that sometimes it can be exploitive for the entrepreneurs. And a lot of times you're having a call and that they're just trying to get information on the category and they're not really interested. And I also knew well enough that, 2021 fundraising was great. I probably could have raised it at a very inflated valuation. But when I was trying to raise in 2023, it was very difficult to get money from VCs at all. And so I kind of quickly realized, I was okay, first of all, I need to get my numbers up so that I would invest in this, and then we did. And that's why I kept putting my own cash in, because I was no one's going to invest in this. And I need to figure this out. So we actually didn't do our first outside angel round until March 2023. And that was after I had Dry January and February under my belt. We were doing at least 100,000 a month. And I was okay, this is I can see data wise where if I put more money into this, it's going to make more money. And so I just knew from the fundraising climate that I wasn't going to get any VC to invest in the company at its size. It was too small. It was too new. And so I just went out to friends and family, and I've done 3 AngelList rounds. So AngelList is a platform where you can create what I don't know what they're supposed to be called. It's like a founder's roll-up vehicle. So instead of like having an outside person go out and raise the money for me and take like, a 20% carry and a 2% fee or whatever, you can just do it yourself. And so I just did it myself. And so it allows you to create a platform for investors to go in and sign up via a link and wire money into this like special purpose vehicle. It's basically just like an entity that holds the investment. And I went out to my friends and family, and most of the checks are below $30,000. So that's how I did it. I just went out and I went to people that I had, oh my God, such a wide circle of people tried Little Saints before it went out. Like I've been product testing on like my friends and family forever. I went to Kellogg. I did the Kellogg Executive MBA program with a bunch of, and that's like people that are like kind of in their 40s like me. So I reached out to them. I had people that liked me from my previous company, but again, most of them were smaller checks. And I think that in this fundraising climate and where the company was at that time, that was the only thing that was going to work. Like VC would have taken forever. I didn't have the numbers. And like, I also knew that I was like, I don't want a board. I mean, I think one thing that people don't think about, which I know from my previous experiences, like VC is not great all the time. They can be great, but like taking a big check means that you have a board, that you're no longer necessarily like in control of the major decisions of your company. And like, it just totally changes the energetics of it. And I didn't want to do that. So I've done 3 different rounds, and it's been mostly like smaller checks. I have one friend who's a larger investor, and he and myself and my mother and like my family are really the only ones that have written checks over about 50 grand. It's all been small
interesting.
checks.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard more and more founders talk about, going the individual investor route. It's really interesting because I think that, there's also just the challenge if you're working with those, like you mentioned, of working with VC. And then, maybe you get 3 years down the line and they need to show those returns, like some sort of big return for their own investors. And then, you start to see turnover at the top of the company. So I think like there definitely are some challenges with that route, and the sort of, interest of VC seems to be moving away somewhat from the drinks industry in some, sectors that I've seen. So it's interesting to hear your experience there. Well, let's talk a little bit about the branding. So, I love the branding of Little Saints, and it has such a great website, has fun videos. Tell me about the vision behind Little Saints look and feel.
Sure. So I wanted it to be fun, and I wanted it to be like chic, and I wanted it to be something that I would be proud to hold in my hand at a cocktail party. Like the word, I hate like having a LaCroix be my option or like something at a party, so it was very much, so I didn't work theme here. I didn't work with an agency. I have like a brilliant freelance designer that I worked with. And so she and I did the design together, but I crowdsourced it. I crowdsourced all of our rounds of kind of, design options to a lot of friends and family. At one point it had like dancing mushrooms on it. It was hilarious, but it was always kind of like, I wanted something that looked like slightly naughty. So it is an adult drink. Like you are not, if you're drinking this during the day, it's kind of like you would be day drinking, right? Like this is not like an adaptogenic daytime drink. And so it had to be nighttime. And then I knew I wanted it to be mint, because that kind of like has like a really like premium kind of like, kind of like tongue in cheek, like money, and then also plants connotation. And, it was really a collaboration. Alicia is a brilliant designer, and we did so many focus groups. So many people saw those revisions and like really helped it get to where it is.
Yeah. And it feels pretty gender neutral, I will say. Were you going for sort of a gender neutral feel to it?
I'm happy that it came out that way, because in the beginning, it was more of the way that I thought about it was that it was like more women were going to be buying it. I certainly didn't want to like exclude men, but like, I just thought at that time that it would be more female focused. And then but of course, but I had probably more men giving feedback on the design round. So like, it was definitely, that's probably why it looks gender neutral. But I will say, just in terms of, this isn't about the design, but it's just about our customer base. In the beginning, we were very much marketing towards women. It's always been women over 35. Like Little Saints has a high price point. There's a ton of non-alcoholic drinks that are designed for Gen Z, and Little Saints just is not. And so we originally did, like, a lot of our ads and stuff were, contemplating female buyers. And actually, what the most fun thing that started to happen was this year, when we started doing advertisements with like with men talking about how they like Little Saints, because we get a ton of men writing into us being like, I love this. Like, I drink this all the time. So we were like, cool, let's double down on the men and get them to do some content. And then once we started like doing ads like with men in them, and it's really fun because all the male actors like actually love Little Saints. So I think it comes across like even more genuine. Our men like buyers like increased by 900% in dry January.
Wow.
And we were like, whoa. And so so we've been, now it's very much like the buyers are really 50-50. I'd be so interested, like what some of my other friendly competitive brands in the set, like if they're like 50-50 too. But now, we are like very, like just going hard on the gender neutral. And it's been so fun because like when I've been told people that we have like a gin coming out, like I didn't really realize this, but I will just tell you anecdotally that it seems like dudes love gin a lot more than women. I had like the most hilarious thing. My brother was like, 95% of married men have been banned from drinking gin by their wives. The other 5% will be banned within the year. Like, it's like everyone
very scientific.
This, like, everyone has this like hilarious like connotation with like gin martinis and kind of just
the resulting bad behavior.
Back to the branding. Sorry, I took us on a tangent.
No. So I am curious though about the ages. Like, are you seeing more millennial, more Gen X, a mix? Like, what does the customer base look like from that perspective?
Well, you know how Meta does it. It's like you can either look at 35 to 44 or 45 to 53. And so the 35 to 44 range is the highest like buyers. And then the next is the whatever the next one is, like the 45 to 54.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so pretty good mix there.
Yeah, pretty good mix.
Awesome. So what's on tap for Little Saints for 2025?
I'm going to keep this little secret, but we're going to be playing with some new sizes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we're going to be playing with some new sizes. And we have like a little bit of an Amazon presence, but it was kind of by accident. And we wanted to be on Amazon for Shark Tank. We haven't been putting any advertising dollars into that. So we will, and then, we're going to do our best to build our wholesale presence. I have onboarded with a great distributor in Massachusetts and Rhode Island and Connecticut. And so like, hopefully you'll see Little Saints like all over the Cape and Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard this summer. So, we're expanding our wholesale, we're expanding Amazon, and like, we're just really excited about the creative possibilities for like our videos. Like we've been really just doing a great job. Thank you, Katie and Dylan, like building a great like in-house video team. Like we are a media company, like we are a drinks company, but we are also here to entertain people. And like every single one of us on the team is an entertainer and we're a creative. And so like, we're just going to like, now that we have more resources and like, we've been getting into the groove, like I'm super stoked, like to just get some banger content out there.
Yeah.
And I'm raising a Series A. I'm actually I would just like to put my foot into my mouth about anything I've said about VC up to this point. It was because we weren't ready yet, but like we're in this to win it and we need money to do it. And like, we are, one of the more profitable companies in the space, I know. And yet we all need money to do this. And like, we all need to, so we're going to raise a Series A.
All right. And lastly, so let's say a drinks entrepreneur asks you for a book, a movie, an online class, someone to follow on LinkedIn. Who or what do you recommend to provide the greatest insights?
I'm going to say something different because I thought about this question. I think what we talk about a lot about is like, I think that I've grown the most of it as an entrepreneur when I have done the most personal work on myself to like slough away the layers of like fear and anger and shame I have so that I'm not bringing any of the muck into like what I'm doing day to day. And I think I can be the most creative and my team can be the most creative like when the muck is gone. So I would say the way that we do that is you know, we did a mystery school, like maybe some psychedelics, like maybe some therapy, like anything that you can do to just like slough off the layers of shit that are holding you back from being creative. I think for me, that is more impactful than like listening to what someone else did, because like you're going to be a successful entrepreneur if like you're as close to your true essence as possible and really feeling fearless.
Yeah, I love that. The deep work will help the company get to the next level.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, Megan, thank you so much for coming on The Business of Drinks. This has been such a great conversation.
Thanks, Eric. I really enjoyed it.